Going on, Falcon fan? This Barcondo coming back at you with another video. Falcons Fan Talk Monday. It's Memorial Day. Want to say Happy Memorial Day to all out there, and to all the fallen heroes out there that served our country. That's really what Memorial Day is all about. So I want to say Happy Memorial Day. Hope everybody you know, had good family fellowship and enjoyed themselves on this day. Also, want to say rest in peace to Bill, to Bill Walton. Um, guy played with the Portland Trailblazers, UCLA, Bruins, and of course with the Boston Celtics. Um, 71-year old. So, um, condolences to his family and rest in peace to Bill Walton. So, guys, with that being said, today we're going to talk about how long this Atlanta Falcons team is going to take for these guys to gel here in 2024. Every year is a new team. Of course, this year is a little different, right? Because we got a new coaching staff here. So, how long is it going to take for this team to kind of gel and get themselves together? We do know that the schedule, the way it's set up, kind of come out. The first part of the schedule, I think, is harder than the last part of the schedule. So it's like a lot of teams always say you want to be playing your best football towards the end of the season. So Atlanta Falcons definitely have a chance to do that. But how long is it going to take for these guys? We're going to talk about that today and get into it and talk about current little factors that could to factor in how long it's going to take for these Atlanta Falcons to actually come together in 2024 and get rolling like we hope they can this year. So, guys, with that being said, if you have not already, go ahead and please subscribe to the channel. Please hit that notification bell so you know to drop another video. Please hit the like button. I know you guys out here to talk about. Then please share my video throughout the YouTube universe so more people can come in here and talk about. That's right, these Atlanta Falcons. Haven't been out here since last Wednesday. It is dead time, guys. We know. Um, once they go on break, I promise you, I'm definitely gonna start putting out more videos, like I always do. Start talking about the team in general, what we gotta look for the season, things like that. But just like the team take breaks, I take breaks as well. Just don't want to come out here and talk about nothing. So definitely be looking for more video from me. But today we get into got an interesting topic I really want to get into today. What's going on, Wallace? And let's see, can we, get some good ideas of what how long we think this team is going to take for this team to get the rolling, right? So, one of the factors that we really got to factor in from this team this year is just the new offense in general, right? It's simple as that. We got a new offensive coordinator, right? Um, so we all know that this offense is going to be completely different than what we had the last 3 seasons under Arthur Smith. If you just go back and look at, we don't know. First of all, we don't really know what his offense is going to entail, right? But if you just look at the genesis of this offense, and you go look at how way Kyle Shanahan runs his offenses, the way Minnesota ran theirs. You go look at Sean McVay. Um, you look at Mike LaFleur, you look at Mike McDaniels, all those guys, right? They have a version of this offense, and you kind of try to get an idea of what Zach Robinson is going to bring to the table. Now, I really do believe it all depends on the personnel you have because, um, it depends on how dynamic you can be or what you decide to do and things like that. For an example, if you look at the San Francisco 49ers, I think Kyle Shanahan might run the ball more than a lot of other teams do. Him and Mike McDaniel, you know, but Kyle Shanahan's had a young quarterback and Brock Purdy. He had Christian McCaffrey, who's you're going to be able to utilize. Your best players. We know Kyle Shanahan. He's really good at doing that, right? Um, you look at what McDonald did, Kevin O'Connell did in Minnesota, right? Um, he was more pass, right? He had Justin Jefferson's, his best players on the outside, things like that. You want to be able to take advantage of a guy like Justin Jefferson, right? You look at Mike McDaniels, got a good running game with Mostert, right? Tua is an accurate quarterback, but you got those two great receivers that he had on the outside, and Tyreek Hill and things like that. So they're going to be able to take advantage of that. And you go look at what the Rams did. You had one of probably the best passers in the game and Matthew Stafford. So you're going to take advantage of that, right? And you're going to see a lot of them personnel what they was able to do with the Los Angeles Rams. So when you're looking at from an offensive standpoint, um, you know that it's just gonna be different. We seen from Arthur Smith, he loves his tight end. He had a fullback, Keith Smith, right? He used Tucker Fisk at fullback as well. So you know it's going to be a lot of heavy 12 personnel, things like that. Arthur Smith really liked to run his own scheme. We saw that. So things like that, you kind of figured out what you was going to get from Arthur Smith. Had a lot of different formations, which it's you think about it sometimes that probably could be the detriment of why a guy like Des Ritter struggled and things he was doing. So you never know, but just looking at new offense, totally, it's going to be some growing pains here. So how long is it going to take these guys to grow, right? Good things about this offense, of course, we got a new offensive coordinator, right? But we kept our offensive line coach, and that's going to, bring big dividends here because I can promise you, probably Arthur Smith probably wanted to take it with him, implement his offense in Pittsburgh, but he was able to stay with the Atlanta Falcons, so that's going to be the good. And we know that the offensive line loved Dwayne Ledford, so he's going to come in. He's the run game coordinator, right? We know if you look back what he did when he was at the University of Louisville, the things he was able to do there, right? So that's good. We was able to keep our running backs coach as well. So with our two running backs we got with Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson, that's good. Michael Petrie, get to keep him as well. We was able to move TJ Yates over to the quarterback. Actually, we got 4 quarterback coaches. So it was a good emphasis from Raheem Morris to think about the offense by how many people he brought in to coach the quarterbacks and the offensive side of the ball to help Zach Robinson do his thing. And also, I just want you guys to kind of figure out this. The whole thing about where Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot was talking about the future, right? When you have that many quarterback coaches, let's just say Zach Robinson coaches really well in the next 2 seasons, right? He's probably gonna be up for offenses a head coaching job, right? Right, because he did so well that usually what happens, right? But succession plans here, by having 4 quarterback coaches, one of those guys can just fall right in and you don't miss a beat with your offense. So that's the way to look at it. That's the way to think about it. So it's kind of a good idea to have all those offensive minds. Sometimes you can say you can have too many cooks and whatever and things like that. But when you look at how many quarterback coaches they brought in to help Zach Robinson out, right? And having the potential, if he does really well, he's going to leave and be a head coach somewhere. You can have one of these other guys that's been in the system with him to just roll right in and keep the ball moving. That's the mindset you got to think. So looking at a new offense, right? We know we're probably going to see more receiver sets, right? That's just the way it is. The interesting thing was different between, like, if you look at what the Rams do and other teams do, right? Kyle Pitts is a factor, right? Because we know Kyle Pitts is a tight end and he's dynamic, but you can also use Kyle Pitts in different ways, right? So do you put Kyle Pitts on the outside? You put Drake London in the slot, Darnell Mooney on the other side, right? You can do that, right? You can do things like that, right? And still have, we brought Charlie Warner in. He could be that tight end, right? So you playing 11 personnel, but Kyle Pitts is one of your receivers, right? And you got a tight end on the field as well. So it looks like 12, but more than likely it's more of 11 because Kyle Pitts is playing the receiver, right? And you have either Darnell Mooney or Drake London in the slot at that point, right? So many other things you can do with this, but just imagine how different it's going to look. It's just going to be a totally different offense, right? If you just go back and look at what the Rams, where Zach Robinson came from, it's a lot of passing, right? It's a lot of passing. However, right, even though the Rams ran the ball a lot, they ran the ball a lot. We have 2 dynamic running backs, so you don't want to take away the Atlanta strengths as well of being able to run the ball. So you want to see the balance that we've been talking about. What I was talking about all last year, being able to utilize your weapons, right? You invested in DJ Robinson a lot. You invested in Drake London. You invested in Kyle Pitts, all top 10 picks. Those guys need to be able to be focus points your offense. Go back and see what I said about Kyle Shanahan. One thing that he really did was get his playmakers the ball, right? Christian McCaffrey, Debo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, those guys touch the ball a lot, right? Because that's what you want to do, be able to get the ball in your playmaker's hand, right? Um, Sherman Vay did the same thing. Cooper Cup, Puka Nakua, his three wide receivers really used to got their hands on the ball. Tyler Higby got his hand on the ball, probably a little bit less than we would hope Kyle Pitts going to get the ball, but at the same time, that's what you're hoping, guys. You want to be able to see all those factors. All right. So while it says the Rams ran the ball a little more last season, also, yes, they did. They ran the ball a lot last year, and that's what I'm saying. So I don't want anybody to think they're going to pass a lot. I think it's going to be balanced. So it's not all going to be passing. It's going to be run, and you have to be able to run the ball. We have some dynamic running back. So if you don't run the ball like you should with this offense, you're kind of taking away, some of its explosiveness because you're not going to be getting the ball into two of your best playmakers' hand in Tyler Algier and Bijan Robinson. Right now, you can utilize them, in the passing game as well, but you want to be able to run the ball. Right, that's one thing you gotta look. I don't think we're going to use a fullback this new season. No, I don't think we're going to use fullback. They did not bring back Mike Smith, so I think we can kind of get that out of our mind. Most of the time, if you go back and look at the Ram offense, they had one back there. So I agree with you. I don't think we're going to utilize a fullback. One thing to note about the Rams offense is that it's kind of hard to dictate what they're going to do because if you in 11 personnel, whatever, and you use a lot of motion and you motion on every play, it's hard for the defense to kind of figure out what the play is going because you got 11 personnel out there, which means they might have to be the nickel, right? But if you run the ball, that's you're running like boxes now instead of heavy boxes, right? And you be able to you probably get more advantages that way because you'll be able to run in like boxes instead of getting heavy personnel and trying to run the ball. So it kind of benefits, but it kind of also the defense don't know if you're going to pass or run when you would have three wide receivers out there, right? So that's a good way to look at it. Why it also says, and what's good for them to keep O-line and Leffert to keep the continuity together. Yes, that's 100% what I was talking about. And I think offensive linemen really love the fact that they got him still here in the fold, and we'll see what they'll be able to do with it. While it's also said, and it was good for them to keep those tight ends from the 49ers, understand the scheme to help other players learn it. 100%. Like I said, the more people that you got to already know the scheme to come in and help teach other guys, that's invaluable information to have, right? So I agree with you 100%. Bring in Warner and guys like that to understand the scheme, understand what you're trying to do, and things like that. We know Kyle Pitts is a tight end and he's supposed to be blocking, but at the same time, that's really not his forte. We want him going out catching passes. So, bringing in blocking tight ends is huge for us. What's going on? MW, the franchise player. What's up, man? Rise up, rise up. So guys, just think about new offense in general. It's going to be I think it's going to take time, but at the same time, I think it's going to be a good change for this team because of the pieces they got. If you think about it, it was kind of strange the way the Atlanta Falcons went and drafted two dynamic pass catchers in the top 10, but then they ran the ball a lot, right? So it's kind of confusing, right? Because you go draft Kyle Pitts at number 4, who everybody was calling a unicorn. You want to be able to utilize him in pass game. Then you go get the receiver, number 1 receiver in Drake London, and you want to utilize him in your passing game, right? Right now, The third season, you go get Bijan Robinson. Oh, you want to run the ball, but you already had a. So the strategy kind of didn't make sense, but in the end, this personnel kind of fits what the Atlanta Falcons could be changing to from an offensive standpoint this year more than it did with Arthur Smith, because Arthur Smith wanted to be a run heavy team, things like this. You put Kyle Pitts, in space, Drake London get more touches, right? Bijan Robinson, like I said, running in light boxes. You put 3 wide receivers out there. That means the defense might have to get in dime, right? A nickel. And now you'll be running like boxes instead of trying to be in those heavy boxes trying to run the ball. So it's just a different way, the mindset to look at it. Not saying what Arthur Smith, was completely wrong and things like that, because what he did, obviously it worked to get him a head coaching job, right? But at the same time, the personnel that you got always, in my opinion, always kind of dictate how you're going to run your offenses. And I think the new offense kind of fits better with the personnel we have than maybe what we would utilize with what we had last year. Especially, less tight ends, more receivers, 2 dynamic running backs. And what I'm going to talk about in just a minute, with the schedule first 5 games, we can learn a lot against strong teams, 100%. And that's the point I'll make. How long it's going to take, right? That's what we're going to talk about. So when we talking about this new offense, guys, I think the biggest key is what's going to factor in to how quick it's going to take is the new quarterback. And guys, if you kind of look at the theme, it's all new, right? That's where I'm going with this show. It's new, right? Everything is new what I'm talking about. So we have a new quarterback, right? And I believe they having a new quarterback in Kirk Cousins, being a veteran quarterback, is going to help speed up the process of how long it's going to take, right? For one reason, he knows the offense, right? 12 seasons in the NFL, he's been in the same offense, right? Terminology difference, the way they call plays, they take a little bit out from this coach, this play caller, whatever. But at the same time, this is the offense he's probably ran his entire career, right? So he understands the offense, right? He know how to read defenses already. He knows about the protections. He already knows protections in his offense where it's going to be, right? He knows how to maneuver to the pocket. He knows how to help his lineman out. He knows how to get rid of the ball. He knows how to protect the ball, right? He knows where you're going to have the advantages in his offense. He knows all these things already. So the new quarterback in Kirk Cousins is definitely going to help dictate how long it's going to take, right? You hear him keep saying that, we're not there yet. More time on target, more time on task, and things like that. That's 100% true. But having your main guy, the guy who's going to have the ball in his hand every play, kind of understands where everybody needs to be, kind of understanding how to put these guys in the spots they need to be, trying to create that chemistry that he wants to create is really huge, right? So that's where I'm at with this, how long it's going to take, right? Personally, being just hopefully, I'm saying hopefully it'd be ready to go by week 1, right? These guys gelling, they're ready to go, but maybe not. Maybe not. Now, one advantage that Atlanta Falcons will have, when we talk about new offense, is the fact that nobody knows, right? Nobody knows what to expect. Nobody knows what to expect because we ain't seen it yet, right? You can go look at the Rams film, right? You can go look at the Minnesota film and kind of figure out what's going to run. But guess what? The Rams don't have a Kyle Pitts. The Rams don't have a Bijan Robinson, right? So it's going to be different. It's going to be different. So that's one of the advantages, especially the first start off the season, because they got to get film on this team to see how to play them, right? So the Pittsburgh Steelers probably had had probably the biggest disadvantage of trying to see what the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to show some stuff in preseason, but I promise you, they're not going to show a lot. It's going to be really vanilla. Just probably show some passing concepts and things like that. They're not going to show anything, much of anything this preseason, right? And Kirk Cousins might not even play, right? I know we like not again, but he haven't played the last 2 seasons in Minnesota preseason, so he probably not even played preseason, which we're going to get a lot of Taylor Heineke and Michael Penix. We'll get to see both of those guys slinging around, right? But you're not going to see, so don't expect to see a whole lot in preseason. So that's not going to happen. I can promise you that you're not going to see a whole bunch of preseason. So be prepared for that. But having Kirk Cousins here, being that new quarterback, is going to be huge for us, right? And it's an advantage for the whole NFC South as well. I mentioned this before. Since he's really the only one that's been in the offense that he's taken over. He comes in with advantage over the other quarterbacks in our division, right? Bryce Young's learning a new offense, right? It's just that it's just that simple. Bryce Young, Baker Mayfield, who had a pretty good season last year, is learning a new offense, right? His offensive coordinator, head coach for the Panthers right now. Derek Carr is learning a new offense, right? Kind of learned the same offense that Atlanta's learning. This West Coast offense. So it's gonna be interesting to see, how quick those other quarterbacks from the division, grasp their offenses as well. So we all starting off kind of new offensive scheme. Everybody got to fill everybody out. One interesting thing about Atlanta, we play all our division opponents. In the first 10 weeks, except Carolina, we play the last game of the season. So, um, you know, we really going to find out real quick where the Atlanta Falcons stand in this division. And while it says, and the new scheme is going to give defenses fits if they're lining up in the same formation and running something different out of it, they want to be able to say it. That's exactly, man. It's going to be really interesting because if you line up here like, okay, they ran this last time, but they're gonna run something different. And like I said, if you watch the Rams, man, like every play somebody's going in motion, every play, right? The defense have to key on that motion guy every play, and they running a different play every play. So that's a great point. It's a great point, Wallace. He also says, and what I got from Zach interviews a few weeks ago is that Kirk is already familiar with some of the offense, and he's learned a few plays they're going to run. Also, that 100%. Like I said, honestly, he probably know pretty much the whole playbook, man. Some stuff called different. I mean, it's just what it is. And like I said, you have to play to the strengths of your teams too, as well, the personnel on your team. So you're going to see differences, right? Because I like I said, he didn't have a Kyle Pitts, right? Yes, he had a pretty good receiver in Minnesota, but he had a pretty good receiver in the Rams. Kirk Cousins with Minnesota, Zach Robinson with the Rams. But they never had a Kyle Pitts, right? A guy that can inline and create mismatches and things like that. They haven't had that, so it's going to be interesting to see how they're able to utilize, the personnel they got. So it's going to be some changes, which is good. You don't want to have the same, just take the Rams offense and bring it over to Atlanta and change the name from Rams to the Falcons. That's definitely not what you can do. So, and Zach Robinson was a quarterback his own. Probably some things that, he wanted to add, when he became an offensive coordinator, stuff that he probably thought really well, so it's going to be interesting to see how he's able to, deploy this offense with these guys under Kirk Cousins. What's going on, Mac Town Dirty? I think Kirk might get on one series in offense's preseason since he's coming off an injury just to let him get the feel for the game. Yeah, I mean, I can see that. I definitely see that. During our preseason game, it's like it's like a if damn they do, damn they don't, right? Right. So the last couple seasons, our first team didn't get a lot of reps, right? And then we come out sluggish and things like that, and everybody say that that's the reason why they're not playing well. Believe it or not, I think the NFL trying to do away with preseason. So might want to get used to that because you're not probably not going to see preseason here soon, especially they start thinking about adding another game. So, but you are right. He probably play a series or so, but don't know. He said by August 1st he want to be um, ready to roll, which I think training camp starts July 27th. So that's where Kirk Cousins want to be. He want to be 100% ready to go. Start a training camp. If that's the case, you're right. He might see some run in the preseason. So we'll just have to see. But guys, the new quarterback is what I'm thinking about when I think about this new this new coaching staff regime and this new offense and how long it's going to take in 2024 for us to get off and running. Right? Um, Another new, right? Um, New defense. Right? We got a new defense is coming in, right? We got a new defensive coordinator. It was the first time defensive coordinator, right? So we got a lot of new, right? We got a brand new offensive coordinator, first time offensive coordinator. We got a brand new defensive coordinator, first time defensive coordinator. Now, Jimmy Lake was a defensive coordinator in college. He was a head coach in college, so it's a little different than what Zach Robinson, right? It's a little different. However, he's never been a defensive coordinator in the NFL before, right? So we'll have to see how it panned out, right? So now we know um, it's really when you come to talk about defenses, it's all boiled down to your personnel, right? What kind of defense you're going to run, right? So last year we went back to the 4-3, after running a base 3-4 for the most part with Dean Pease. Now it's just base, right? Because a lot of times these fronts change, right? So you don't want to get so caught up into the 3-4 and the 4-3 because they change all the time. But Jimmy Lake said himself is going to be a base 3-4, right? So we got to take that for what it's worth, right? And that's how you get build your personnel based off, what you're looking for, right? So 3-4, you have your two ends, and then your outside linebackers, and then your two middle linebackers, strong safety, and your free safety, right? Pretty much that's what it looks like. Two cornerbacks back there, right? You play nickel, have your nickel corner. So that's that's your 3-4 defense. You look at the personnel. In my opinion, you look at the personnel, right? You have a Armor Every Katie, right? Probably the best pass rusher we got on our team right now from an outside linebacker standpoint, right? You got Lorenzo Carter, who was able, to be retained. A lot of us thought he was going to be released, right, to clear some of that cap space, but they kept Lorenzo Carter. We got an unknown in D'Angelo Malone. We don't know what he's going to be able to do. A guy like D'Angelo Malone, right? But the biggest thing is, I think the pieces, the personnel for this defense kind of fit what Jimmy Lake's trying to do, right? So that's where what I'm saying. Um, you bring in guys from the draft, right? Like a Dorless, like a Trice, right? Like a Rook, Aurora Rural, banging a big Zion load to tie into that front. Now, because that's why I said it's a 3-4, but I think you're going to see some four-man fronts. I really do. I really believe you're still going to see some four-man fronts. You heard Raheem Morris in one of his press conferences talking about, 6-2, 5-2 fronts and things like that. So it's going to be hybrid. It's going to switch up. But start the game probably in the base. It's going to be 3-4. You're going to have David out there. You're going to have Grady out there. And more than likely, you're going to have Zach Robinson out there, right? The guy that really showed some growth towards the end of the season, right? So we're going to be able to see that. So new defense, how long it's going to take for these guys to gel in new defense, right? You hear, Jimmy Lake, you're starting to hear the players say it, right? Fast, physical, and free, right? Um, Go back to 2015, we heard fast and physical a lot from Dan Quinn, right? And and so the whole thing of what's going on, Carrie, the whole thing about this new defense we're talking about is they want to have these guys. They don't have to think a lot, right? the less you think, the more you can play fast and you can get to the ball, right? You have this responsibility, you have this key, right? The defense lined up here. If this the strong side, this the weak side, you run it, you reading the keys, you can move and you can move quick. That's the whole ideal of it, right? Now, the basis of a 3-4, guys, and for everybody want to know is base of a 3-4, it confuses the offense, right? Because you kind of don't know where your pressure is coming from, right? In a 3-4, right? Because they're going to send 4 guys, maybe 5 guys, but you don't know which 4 or which 5 is coming. 3-4. Now they can do that in 4-3. I'm not saying that it's impossible in 4-3, but using it in 4-3, got guys, they got their hands in the ground. In 3-4, you got guys standing up, right? And you got a lot of guys standing up. The quarterback don't know who's coming, right? It's kind of talked about Kirk Cousins trying to identify the pressures, the protections and things like that. So in that 3-4, and everybody standing up, right? From an outside linebacker stand up, your linebacker stand up in the middle, right? Your safeties standing up. You don't know where the pressure's coming from, right? You don't know if the outside linebacker dropping back, right? Or that defensive end dropping back in coverage. You just don't know in a 3-4. So that's how you're gonna be able to see. But you have to have the personnel to do that, right? You got to have fast linebackers on the outside, right? To be able to drop back in coverage. Lorenzo Carter, one of the best linebackers dropping back in coverage. He really is. So that's probably why he's still on the squad, because he is one of the best drop linebackers. We know that Troy Anderson is one of the fastest linebackers in the league, right? You can utilize that speed, right? We got one of the best cover safeties in the league, right? Playing that zone, right? That zone defense, right? A guy like Clark Phillips, you'll be able to see him more, right? Playing in some of his strengths, right? If you go back to what he did at the University of Utah, right? A lot of his interceptions that he got, because he got a lot of interceptions at University of Utah, he was in zone coverage, right? He wasn't a lot of that man. He was in zone, so he can read the eyes of the quarterback because he's smart, right? And that's what you want to be able to play free. If you watch film, you kind of understand route concepts, what Jesse Bates was talking about. You understand what's going on. Read the quarterback eyes. You know where they're key and where they should be going, because the way you lined up, right? Quarterbacks, they reading how the defense set up. If a defensive back understands that, that's how they smart and they pick out plays and things like that. So, you know, that's just getting a little, into the X's and O's there. But at the same time, right, this new defense, I think the personnel we got is going to be good for that. But the question is, how long it's going to take these guys, right? Listen to what Jimmy Lake had to say. They want to make sure they get it, so they can play fast and they can play, free, right? Fast and free. The whole physical thing, in my opinion, is kind of, you shouldn't have to say that, right? It's football, so everybody should be physical, right? So playing physical is like the job description. You want to be able to play physical. So playing physical is shit to be a no-brainer. But you want to play fast and free, you want to be able to do that. And how you do that, you know what you're doing, and you're going to just go to the ball, right? That's the whole key of it. So, but you know, I think the personnel that we got kind of fits what they're trying to do, right? That's what you like, right? You got guys like a Lorenzo Carter, you got an Army Katie, you got a D'Angelo Malone. Like I said, one of the fastest linebackers in the league, and Troy Anderson, you got him. Kane Ellis, if you go back what he did with the Aints a couple of years ago, he was a great blitzer for the Saints, bringing that pressure. Like I said, they don't know where the pressure coming from. I mean, he had 7 sacks his last season with the Aints. So those are the kind of things you can anticipate, right? One of our best blitz and safeties is Richard Grant, right? He gives a lot of blitz, a lot of sacks, coming from the defensive backfield, getting blitz and, disguises and things like that as well. So you'll be able to see different things, kind of confusing the offense, the quarterback, trying to figure out, to make the best, advantageous play for us on defense. So that's what you're looking for from a new defensive standpoint. I'm not worried about our offense because I think we'll be able to score on teams, but we got to see how the new defensive scheme is going to look, and the world can pick it up exactly. That's the key, right? Um, and you're right because Kirk Cousins knows the offense. I think the offense is going to be ahead of the defense, right now because Kirk Cousins already know where he want to go with the ball. Just got to get his guys on the same page, right? But from a defensive standpoint, it's going to be different, right? Um, we still have Jerry Gray here, which is continuity in the backfield, but some of the things they did last year already schematically is going to be different because they play a lot of more man last year. I think they're going to play a little less man, more zone this year, right? I mean, that's just the way I believe it. I think they're going to play a little less man, more zone, right? So that's different. That's a change from last year, right? Um, we already know how the base is set up, right? That's a change from last year. So it's just some different nuances that we see from a defensive standpoint. To Wallace's point, where we got to see what it's going to look like, um, and really, you think about that first game of the season when you look at it, Pittsburgh, right? Arthur Smith probably got to go all the way back to Washington and the University of Washington to see how Jimmy Lake called his defenses, right? Because he don't know have anything from an NFL point of view to how it's going to be played, right? But you got to factor in that Raheem Morris is going to have some say. So some stuff, maybe some Tampa 2, maybe some cover 3, where he got from Dan Quinn, right? Some of the stuff he did with the Los Angeles Rams, all that's going to be mixed in about also what Jimmy Lake want to bring to the table. So it's going to be interesting to see how this new defense, is going to look. But at the same time, right, we just don't know. And that's what's the exciting part about it. It's kind of unsettling as well because we don't have an idea. Especially pretty solid defense last year, making a change like that, and you got to learn a whole new defense, things like that. So it's going to be interesting. But how long will it take for these guys to get it together in 2024? One statement that somebody said was, well, we're going to get tested right off the bat. So that's a good thing, right? We will be able to, you know, to identify some weaknesses and things like that right off the bat. I started the show and I said, you know, you want to be playing your best football in November and December, right? That's where you want to be playing your best football. So if that's the case, right? What we see in September and October, hopefully they be on gelled even more in November and December. That's what we're looking for from this new defense, right? So in this new defense, which I think is really going to really factor in one of the big things as well is the new roles that some of these players was going to have to take on, and I'm talking about our young players, right? So I talked about Zach Harrison, right? Zach Harrison is taking on a new role, right? Zach Harrison backed up Calais Campbell last year. Doesn't seem like Calais Campbell is going to come in back. So Zach Harrison is probably going to take on a new role this year, right? Um, can he build on what he did from last year? That year one, year two jump that we definitely going to be looking for from Zach Harrison, right? A 5-star guy coming out of high school, didn't quite live up to the hype when he got to Ohio State, right? But really showed flashes towards the end of the season in the NFL, right? One of the reasons they probably let Okendeji go, right? Not the same type of player, skill set, and things like that, but you got a Zach Harrison guy that really showed a lot of progress towards the end of the season. He's in a new role. He's going to be starting. Um, he needs to be able to deliver. He need to be able to hold his point. At the line of scrimmage, be able to get penetration, in that front. Now, playing where he's playing in that 3-4, he's going to be lined up a little different. And, he played 4-3 last year, so he was on the outside a little bit more. But his new role is going to be important for these Atlanta Falcons. So right now, that's who I got penciled in as starting, alongside Grady and David Amiyata. But we'll just have to see. But if that's the case, definitely a new role for him, right? Another young guy that's going to be in a new role is Clark Phillips, right? Right now, we heard that Mike Hughes was taking, quarterback 2 snaps and things like that, and that could be the case, right? We heard D. Alford was playing that nickel role, so right now, Clark Phillips look like he's the first cornerback to come off the bench, behind our 3 starters. But if that's the case, he's going to be in a new role as well. If he wins the position, he's going to be cornerback two maybe, and we'll see what he's all about. So that's a new role for a guy like Clark Phillips as well. We heard about guys, Troy Anderson, you know, being more vocal and getting guys set, at the linebacker position. That's definitely a new role for him. Um, Last year, I don't think he was as vocal that he need to be. They expect him to be this year. He's going into his 3rd season. So um, these are some of the things that we definitely want to be able to see from our young guys in new roles, being able to handle different situations and things like that. I think it's going to be really huge for us. Um, we don't have to worry about guys like Jesse Bates. He's his role is set, right? A guy like AJ Terrell, his role is set. Grady Jarrett, his role is set. Those are some of the things that we already got solid guys, on that, in that defense that's going to be the leaders, right? But young guys coming in the roles. And this is one of the things, when you're trying to build a team, you need some of your young guys to step up and play better than they played the season before, right? You saw the growth, right, from Zach Harrison. I felt like Clark Phillips played really well in his stint he had at cornerback last season. I really do. I think he played really well. And then Troy Anderson was starting to hit his stride before he tore his pec, right? So those 3 guys, we expect those 3 guys to have that jump that we have. That's how this team get better, right? You don't have to always go out and get a big name free agent, right? You want your development or your young players to start to pay dividends for you. And if they do, it's going to pan out for you in the long run. So that's what you're hoping, and that's what you're expecting these guys to be in these new roles, right? Um, you know, Personally, I probably would start Nate Landman right over Troy Anderson, but I don't know. I don't know how they see that. Um, that dynamic working. Nate Landman played lights out, right? He's a downhill linebacker, right? But we just talked about it. We don't know what they're asking their linebackers do. If they want a linebacker run sideline to sideline instead of downhill, Troy Anderson would be better fit for that than a Nate Landman. Nate Landman is a thumper. He's going downhill, right? His numbers was undeniable, guys. He probably should be the starter, but you don't know what they're asking. If they want more coverage, out with their linebacker, you might want to have Troy Anderson out there because he's the more athletic of the two, right? We heard Raheem Morris said they could probably put all 3 of them out there. That could be a good idea, right? So we'll just have to see how it pans out, um, in the long run. But those 3 guys, in my opinion, in their new roles that they're going to be on this team, could really factor in how good this defense is going to be and how quick it's going to be able to gel in the long run. Wallace says, yeah, this D line is going to be very interesting to see how many they're going to keep on the roster because we're very deep at this position. Man, when you say we're deep, like that's an understatement, man. When I did the 53-man roster projection, we talk about defensive line, how deep we are. Um, I was at 10 people, man. I was at 10 people, like literally 10 defensive linemen deep. And I know they can't keep that many, right? But um, you got a Contavious Street who played really well for us, right? You got an Eddie Goldman. You got the 3 rookies we drafted, right? That's 5 right there, right? And then you got to factor in David Amayada and Grady. That's 7. Taquan Graham, that's 8, right? James Smith Williams, all right? I don't know if you look at him as an outside linebacker, as a defensive end. If you look at that's 9, right? I just don't know how you keep all those guys, right? We'll just have to figure they. It's a good problem to have, but at the same time, you don't want to lose talented players, right? And people say just put them on the practice squad. Well, we know how that works. You cut guys, they hit the waiver wire. Somebody else gonna poach your guys off your team because they're so solid, right? Um, if Eddie Goldman comes back and be anything he was, last time he played in 2021, right? We expect him to be a pretty good player for us, right? Um, Taquan Graham right now look like the outside man looking in, right? Um, that's the guy that I'm kind of thinking about. If if he don't show anything in training camp, he might be the odd man out. But you know, he's working hard just like everybody else. So I don't want to cut, a Taquan Graham. But at the same time, right? You do 25 offensive players, 25 defensive players, 3 specialists. That's your 3-man roster. How can you keep everybody? That's where you're gonna have to really think about it. And to your point, Wallace, I agree. It's gonna be a big decision for them um, moving forward because I'm banking on Goldman making the roster. You just read my mind. See, me too. That's the point I'm making. I think he's going to play well, right? So that put a dent into it, and so I can envision this, right, too. So if Eddie Goldman does make the roster, you can see Eddie Goldman at nose tackle, and then you can say Grady and David at the ends, right? Now, now you seeing a more stout, you know, 3 in that 3-4 defense, right? That could be scary, especially Eddie Goldman plays like we expect him to play, right? So you put him at nose, you put David and Grady on the outside on the end, right? Which I think both of those probably play really well because instead of putting David Amiyata in at the nose, right? You put Eddie there, you put him out on the end. Now this is where Zach Harrison still be rotating a rotating force for us, but you like that. You like that depth that you're going to be able to have, but for young guys coming in behind the David and the Grady and the Eddie, right? So, um, I think they got so many opportunities, so many different ways they can go with this. But um, you're right. I believe Eddie Goldman is going to be able to stay on his team as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But the new roles all these guys going to be playing, it's going to be huge. We expect our leaders to still be our leaders and our captains on the team, but we want to see some new guys, start to develop and excel and be the future of the Atlanta Falcons, right? That's what we want to see. So we want to see a Troy Anderson. We want to see a Zach Harrison, right? Definitely want to see Armor Evan Katie. We want to see these guys step into, the future of this team and start to take over and be dominant. So that's where it's going to be interesting. You said, but Goldman fits 3-4 scheme better than he did what they're running last year, and that's why P's drafted him. Yes, yep, yeah. I mean, I'm telling you, man, if he can get back to form, it could be a game changer for us because we want to be we really was really good in run defense last year, and if we can be good in run defense again, it'd be huge for us. So I agree with you. Eddie Goldman, if he decides not to retire again and make it to training camp, and training camp is not it either because it does get hot in August in Georgia. So we're going to see how long he's able to stick with that as well. Unfortunately, we won't be able to see a lot of those practices this year. We'll be able to see the 2 practices when we talked about that. One at the high school, then the other one, at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Other than that, we won't be able to see these guys this year. So it's really going to be an unknown going into the preseason, man. How these guys really look. We got to rely on our good reporting from our Atlanta Falcons, reporters to give us news and interviews and things like that to kind of figure out what's going on this year. And and go from there. But so it's going to be really interesting to see what happens. But Eddie Goldman, I agree with you, man. I think he is the key. All right, guys. The last thing I want to talk about when we talk about how long it's going to take for this team to come together and to put it all together, and it is um, the head coach, Coach Morris, right? And he's the key. He's the key, right? Um, Goldman will be fine. He'll be fine. Because I think he's from Florida. He a Florida boy. He really gonna be good then because it's real humid down in Florida. So you are correct. If he a Florida boy, he should be good to go. But the key to this getting this team ready, guys, is Raheem Morris, our coach, our head coach, right? So he decided to be the CEO of this team, right? That means he's not a defensive coordinator. He's not offensive coordinator. He could easily call plays on defense, right? We know that. He could have easily did it, to a Super Bowl winning team with the Los Angeles Rams a couple of years ago. Um, you know, so he did took a team to the playoffs last year, a young team, right? Young defense last year. So we know he could easily be our defensive coordinator. But Raheem Morris decided to be the CEO of the team, right? That means he's going to be the overseer of everything, right? Offense, defense, and special teams, right? You want to be able to have his hands in everything and things like that. And I think this is going to be huge for Raheem Morris, right? Um, and you look at some of the best coaches that we have in this league, right? And it kind of blueprint for them, right? We go talk about Bill Belichick, right? Bill Belichick, great defensive man and coach, but he was the head coach. He had a defensive coordinator, he had an offensive coordinator, right? You look at Mike Tomlin, probably one of Raheem Morris' best friends, right? He's a head coach. You got an offensive coordinator, got a defensive coordinator, right? Um, Pete Carroll. We think about guys who've been here for a long time, right? Um, Offensive coordinator, defensive coordinator, right? Now you go to some other successful guys like Andy Reid, right? But Andy Reid, we know why Andy Reid does what he do, right? But Andy Reid did have an offensive coordinator and he has a defensive coordinator, right? Now we know Andy Reid is the mastermind of that offense, right? But at the same time, um, he's still offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator. Um, you so you go to some of the newer coaches, you got a Sean McVay, right? Who calls his own plays. He's head coach, but he's a brilliant young coach. Mike LaFleur, I think it's the same, right? Um, so I understand, the whole inkling of being a a coach and call your plays and things like that. But Raheem Morris from his experience, right? And I think this is where it lies down to his experience. His experience, his first time being a coach when he was in Tampa, when he was calling defenses, right? And he said himself, he wasn't even thinking about the offense side of the ball. He was just trying to call the defense, right? Let the offense do what they do. Um, the same thing, when he got interns, bro, he was calling defensive plays and trying to be a head coach. I think he learned from those experiences, right? I think it's important for him to be able to influence all three phases of the game and being not tied into the game plan, being there, put his input in, tell him what he wants, but at the same time, let those coaches coach and call the game the way they need to call it. And he influenced where he needs to influence, so he can see everything, right? Not looking in the playbook when your offense on the field and it's a critical third down and you're trying to figure out, what your next defensive call gonna be. You're looking at the game. You listening to your offense and defensive coordinators, and you'll be able to do that. Coach Morris has learned. I think this is a good move by him to remove himself from the coordinator position and be the CEO of the team, where he can galvanize these guys. And believe it or not, man, that huge for trying to get guys to come together and play, right? Because if they believe, in what you're doing with your program, that's when they'll go out and put it all out there. That's and you can already hear from the players, um, the atmosphere that Raheem Morris has brought. And he mentioned himself, he's not trying to change the culture, trying to add to it. I think one of the biggest things for me, that I heard, Coach Morris does is he hold the people accountable, right? We get so enamored by what Bill Belichick says, do your job, right? And it's so simple to just say that, but a lot of times that's really what it boils down to. And a coach really needs to call out their players when they mess up. And no matter, if you the $50 million quarterback or not, you got to be able to call out your players and put it up there on film and say, we can't have this. You can't have this. And, that's how Bill Belichick was, right? You hear Mike Tomlin, he talks about we weren't ready to play and he calling out his team. Accountability is huge, and you already hearing that from the players is how Raheem Morris expected those guys to hold themselves accountable, and what he see how good they can be, right? Already from the jump. I think he's going to be the key to how long it's going to take for these guys to get rolling, guys. I think at the end of the day, all right, we talked about all new stuff, right? We talked about new offense, new quarterback, we talk about new defense. We talk about the new roles that players going to get, and we talk about our new coach and how he's going to be able to galvanize these guys and get them ready to play football. Right? He's the key. Um, at the end of the day, right? He don't get out and call. He don't get out and play. Right? It's the players on the field and things like that. But these guys got to be ready to go. Right? And I think um, just Raheem Morris' time of being a coach, being fired, waiting all these years to get another opportunity, I think he has figured out, how to get his team ready to go from his experiences. And I think he's going to help this team come together sooner rather than later on in the season. And that's what we're hoping to see. So, um, what's the name says, I think they'll be gelling by week 8 at the halfway point. That's a great point. Um, I think the schedule sets up well for the Falcons. For me, and the reason I say I think it sets up well because the fact that we come out, we play, and I love the NFL, man. They put Arthur Smith around the first game of the season, right? So we get that storyline started right off the bat. Terror Towers in the stadium. It's gonna be loud. It's gonna be raucous. It's gonna be a really good game to start the season off with. Then we go straight to that the Monday Night Football against the Philadelphia Eagles, right? All right. Then we come back to Sunday Night Football against the Kansas City Chiefs. So those first 3 games will kind of let the Atlanta Falcons know where they're at. It's just that simple, right? So um, you might be right by gelling by week 8, but I think the Atlanta Falcons will really know what kind of team they are by week 3. And then we can all get it now. We expect them to be playing better football, like I said, in November, December. But those first 3 games, it's a litmus test, in my opinion, right? You get a good Pittsburgh team coming in, right, with a coach that just really have his team ready to play week in and week out. And Mike Tomlin, you get a team that went 10-1 the first 11 games of the season last season with Philadelphia, who got a lot better. If you look at the personnel that they were able to add during the offseason, right? And then you get the Super Bowl champions back to back. So that first 3 weeks, in my opinion, is going to be a really good test for our Atlanta Falcons. And we'll see how well they're gelling by then, right? That's what we want to be able to see, to kind of gauge, right? The season's not over in 3 weeks, guys. So don't panic, right? Depends on how this season start off because there's 3 pretty good games we got coming right out the gate. But it's no time to panic. It's no time to get all nervous and things like that. But it is really a good time for us to kind of gauge where we're at, right? You don't want to ease into the season, in my opinion, right? And it's a lot of teams not easing in the season. Like you got Kansas City, first 2 games is the Ravens and the Bengals, and then Sunday Night Football against us, right? So it's not just the Falcons got easing not going to be able to ease into the season. There's a lot of teams is not going to be able to ease into the season. So let's see how this thing turns out. But It's going to be huge, man. I can't wait, and I'm saying I agree with Wallace timetable. Is saying week 8. I kind of agree with that timetable. Hopefully, Jalen 100% of in, right? God willing, no injuries. That's going to really change a lot of things for our team. But um, with all this newness on this team, we got to give them some grace, right? We got to give them time. I know we want to see those guys hit the ground running, but at the same time, right? It's a lot of new, right? New offensive coordinator, new offense, new quarterback, um, new defense, new guys playing different stuff, new head coach, right? So it's a lot of new going around. No words, Rakunda, this player coach. I can't see the team play together. Yeah, I agree, man. I think Coach Morris is, believe it or not, you know, is the right coach for the job. And you go back and recall. So I'm not going to try like I was always, on the Raheem Morris bandwagon. No, I was Coach Belichick. Everybody knows that, right? If you watch my videos, right? But right, I think they made the best hire at the end of the day when it comes to Morris because his demeanor, this team, I think everything fits what he's trying to do. He didn't try to come in and change everything, right? Because it was already a solid team in place. I think Belichick would have came in, he would have did an overhaul, man. He probably would have changed so much, and then you don't know what to expect. But the fact that Coach Murs came in and kind of kept us a consistency here with this team and just trying to add to it and make it grow, I think it's a good thing. And I think he's the right guy for the job. So we're going to find out, though, right? Because it doesn't matter, you know, um, how good you feel and Dan Quinn O saying the brotherhood and all that crap. None of that crap matters. It matters what you do on the field, win and losses, man. That's what it boils down to. So, um, while I said I think Raheem have learned a lot in time around getting second chance to be a head coach, has assembled to be the best coaching staff I can remember we ever had as a Falcon. And man, that to me is probably one of the biggest keys that you can mention. And and the reason I say this because I think Arthur Blank, give these guys every tool to be successful, right? So, we talked about the beginning of the season. I mean, the beginning of the show, I talked about having, all these quarterback coaches, right? And just think, Art Smith didn't even hire a quarterback coach, right? But he could have easily, Arthur Blank wouldn't say no to who you bring in. I mean, Raheem Morris got 4 guys, you know, quarterback coaches, right? And then, so the fact that to your point, adding all these guys in and bringing all these minds. I mean, I think another thing too, the staff he was able to retain, right, is really great, right? Jerry Gray is a great coach, right? He's going to be great for us. Dwayne Ledford, the way this offense, one of the best offensive lines in the league, right? Being able to retain Dwayne Ledford, right? Moving TJ Yates over is huge. I think that's one of the things that we're definitely going to see is going to really pay dividends, in the quarterback room, and for especially for the development of a young Michael Penix as well. So you are right. The coaching staff, I like it. Um, we're going to see how this thing. I think they wanted to keep Frank Bush on, but Frank Bush wanted to go play with his buddy and coach with his buddy in Tennessee. So that's how he was not here. But Rudd coming in, a former linebacker and middle linebacker in the pros coming in to coach these guys, I think it was huge for that. So I really believe that I agree. This coaching staff is a solid coaching staff for this team. We just got to see it. We got to see how it's going to pan out, guys. I mean, I go back and I look at some of my videos from last year, right, and how positive I was about the season going in. I mean, because we think about it, we spent a lot of money on defense last season, and the belief I had in Desmond Ritter and things like that. And you're like, Doc, I looked stupid, right? But I didn't. I just felt that's the way I felt last season. And I think we all felt that way when you looking at the roster, Ken Bijan Robinson, looking at the weapons and things like that, thinking Desmond Ritter was going to be, an average quarterback, but he was below average. That's why what happened. So, but at the same time, you know, I'm positive again, guys. It started to get like now. I won't go as far as a delusional Cowboy fan and say we're gonna win the Super Bowl, but I believe we're gonna be pretty good this year. That's just my opinion. We'll have to see how it pan out. Doesn't matter what I think. These guys got to go out and prove it, right? Um, don't buy the hype of the easiest, one of the easiest. Well, we got the easiest schedule in NFL, which is crazy to think, right? When looking at our schedule, like how these teams make us the easiest team in the league. But we'll see, man. I don't know, but we'll definitely find out. Um, um, I hate to say it, but Philly has owned the Falcons over the years. We'll see if that will change. Yeah, we're definitely going to see, man. Definitely going to see. Definitely want to see. We got to go up there. They got a squad, man. They got a squad. So, you know, what I'm hoping for, you know, because you know some of the things that we worried about when we think about, this Atlanta Falcon team, especially on the defense side of the ball, it seemed like Philly has everything that kind of goes against that. So they got like their receivers are great, right? They got good receivers, right? They got a great running back, great running game, right? Even though they lost, their center, right? As long as he don't come back, right? They lost their center. So the offensive line might not be as great as it once was, but you know, we're going to see how this thing pans out, in the long run. So I can't wait to play those guys on Monday Night Football. We get the second Monday Night Football of the season, so that's awesome to see that. Um, Raheem says, Raheem said he wanted to keep Frank Bush, but wanted to go to Titans. Yeah, he wanted to keep Frank Bush, but I think Rudd's a good signing though, really do. Let's see here. We have a lot of offensive minds in the building on the offense side of the ball. 100%, man. It's if you go look at that list of offensive minds. It's going to be interesting. And I think one of the biggest offensive mind, I'm gonna go back to it, is the quarterback. 12 seasons, and he's the guy who's going to be, delivering the ball a lot of running this system. So that's huge. I think that's really underrated. The fact that we have Kirk Cousins on the team. So, um, well, guys, there you have it. There you have it. There you have it. That's where I stand today when we talk about this team and how far we can move and how quick we can get it together and gel before the 2024 season start. Right? Um, it won't be week one. We won't be 100% on all cylinders. I don't think no team is clicking on all cylinders week one, right? And then you don't want to have fool's goals as well, right? And what I mean by that, so you go back to 2015, right? And the Atlanta Falcons started out 5-0. If you guys remember that, right? We started out 5-0, right? Dan Quinn first season started out 5-0, and then we end up 8-8, right? That was 2015, right? Fool's goal. What I mean by that, you don't want to come out and you look at what the Minnesota Vikings did a couple of years ago, right? They had all those one-score wins, right? They had all those one-score wins. Some of the games they probably should have lost, right? So you start thinking, you're like, how good is this team really, right? You don't want to be able to get too hot too soon because you might not see your discrepancies and fix the things that you need to fix. So I think it's good to come out and show, the stuff you need to work on early. So to my point, when you get to November, December, you can start to play well, right? You don't want to hide things and disguise things and not be good at the end of the season because that's when it's too late. So I want us to have growing pains at the beginning. I really do, so we can kind of figure out who we are, and that's why I like the schedule the way it's set up, because you don't have time to sit around and try to figure out how how good we're going to be. We got to get it together, and we got to be able to identify those issues right off the bat. So um, that's what I like about it. Water said, but I think catching Philly at a good time because learning new offense and defense also. Yep, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that's why I like a lot of people, and a lot of coaches do it. They break the season up in quarters, right? That's fine. That's fine. But I think the biggest thing for our Falcons is our home record. We got 9 games at home. If we win our 9 games at home, guess what? We right in the driver's seat. So we need to protect home field. And we got a good teams coming in the home to our stadium this year. But we protect home field, man. We would be good anyway. So that's going to be the key. Um, and we need to win in Philly, in which I don't think we ever beat them in their building in recent years. Yeah, you're probably right. The last time we played them in Philly was, I think, that divisional game, if I'm not mistaken. And we know what happened there. We almost had that game. Back to back NFC championships would have been really nice for us. But we didn't. We were not able to pull it off. So guys, as I have it, thank you guys for tuning in today. Um, Give me your thoughts on how long you think it's going to take. Um, with all the newness that we have around this team, right? We have some old, but we got a lot of new, right? And see how it's going to gel, right? That old with that new, and see how long it's going to take. Like Wallace said, it's going to take 8 weeks. Let's see, right? And if it take 8 weeks and we 4-4 when it goes to week 8, um, that would be great. That would be great. I know it's not ideal to be 4-4, but that definitely can be great. We'll just have to see. So that's what it is. So appreciate it, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Once again, this is your boy Ricondo coming back at you with another video. Peace.